What's that? There we go. Is there extra copies? I don't have a sign to have there, so we have a bigger crowd than normal. That's confidential. I don't have that copy. Maybe put like 20 copies.
Liz, happy birthday. Happy birthday to your son.
Madeline, is Madeline not coming?
Chris is not here yet, so.
Call her
No.
anyway. Just-
Hi, this is my first meeting. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Laura Kreiser. I'm the new reporter with Progress.
Okay, your first name is?
What?
Your first name is? Laura.
Laura
Nice to meet you.
Krauser?
I'm Julianne.
What?
Laura?
Yes, Laura.
Laura, and last name is
Like I said, just wanted to
Krauser.
quick.
Thank you. Thank you.
Progress.
Good, you're here.
Today's 9 and 16. Okay.
Share one.
Okay.
We ready? Great. Good evening, everybody. Please bear with me tonight. I have a terrible sinus infection, so I'm going to be masked for to be convenient to everyone. But just bear with me. But welcome to the Caldwell-West Caldwell Board of Education meeting this Monday, October 16th, 2023. The board met in executive session this evening at 6 p.m. at Grover Cleveland Middle School in the Library Media Center. The purpose of that meeting was to discuss personnel, litigation, miscellaneous, and old business matters. This meeting has been advertised and is in compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act and NJSA 10:4-6, also known as the Sunshine Law. The matters discussed will be made public when confidentiality is no longer required, and formal action pursuant to said discussion shall take place only at a meeting to which the public has been invited. The regular public meeting, starting now at 7:02 p.m., is taking place at the Grover Cleveland Middle School cafeteria and via live stream. The Board of Education meeting is streamed live, and all community questions and comments are welcomed here in Grover Cleveland Middle School in person. The Caldwell-West Caldwell Board of Education regular public meeting is in compliance as well with the Open Public Meeting Act and NJSA 10:4-6, also known as the Sunshine Law. Notices have been sent to the Progress, Caldwell, New Jersey, the Star-Ledger, Newark, New Jersey, and Tap Into, West Essex. Notices have also been posted at the Board of Education Business Office, located in the Harrison School Building, Gray Street, West Caldwell, and have been delivered to the clerks of the Borough of Caldwell and the Township of West Caldwell for posting. Brian, can you please take the roll?
Yes. Student Representative Madeline Alberta.
Madeline is at senior night at the high school tonight, so we
Okay.
miss her.
All right. Miss DiMartini.
Here.
Mr. Elko.
Here.
Ms. Mack.
Here.
Mr. Diambola.
Here.
Ms. Grosso.
Here.
So we have 5 voting members present. We have a quorum.
Thanks, Brian. Can everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Brian, are there any communications for the board?
There were none, but I will note just that the anchor payments, which is a tax rebate from state of New Jersey, has started to come out, and is for families that have a gross income under $250,000. And if you haven't applied, you can apply for this year's payment up through December 29th.
So before we begin onto the agenda, I just wanted to tell everyone we have some sad news to share. You may or may not have heard that Joseph Jack Angelo, who is a longtime member of the schools and the Caldwell community, recently passed away. The board wanted to take a minute to recognize Mr. Jack Angelo's contributions to our school and our community. Joe started his career in Caldwell-West Caldwell in 1969. He taught 6th grade at Washington School and was named the assistant principal of that school 2 years later. In 1990, Joe was named the principal of James Caldwell High School, and in 1994 he became assistant superintendent of schools. After over 35 years in education, he retired in 1999, but continued his contribution to the schools and community. He was the president of the Board of Trustees at the Bridge and a member of the Essex Valley School Board. He was an active member of several other service organizations in Caldwell, including UNICO, Kiwanis, the Citizen Drug Advisory Board, and the Youth Employment Services Commission. His contributions to the school and community will be truly wished, and on behalf of the board, we'd like to send his condolences to his family. Okay. Superintendent's report.
We have a student recognition, if you'd like to
Sure.
read the plaque, and then we can invite her up.
Yeah, well, you know what, actually, Sophia, can you get up first and tell us a little bit of something about you and what you did, and then I'll read the plaque and we'll take a picture. So you're a senior? Sophia
right to the
Petrozzi, everyone, let's give her a round of applause.
Hello, I'm Sophia Pedrazi. I'm a senior at James Caldwell High School, and I have been in philanthropy since I was 6 years old. Throughout elementary school, I raised $18,000 for 2 kids with medical needs, and then I kind of changed my direction, and I started working with the school in Africa. And since then, I have shipped many barrels of school supplies, books, and anything they needed to help them out. It's called Fannin Christian Academy. And they recently just named their library and research center after my mother and I. So.
Isn't that amazing? Oh my goodness.
Thank you to everybody. Thank you to the board for recognizing me. Thank you to Mr. Brown for inspiring me to make a difference. Thank you to Mr. Bertolo for helping me a lot, for inviting me to Make a Difference Day multiple times, and also helping me with many drives. So. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so stay up there because we're going to take, but I want to read this, okay? So this is the plaque that we're going to present Sophia with today. Whereas Sophia Petrozzi has raised over $18,000 for the Deborah organization to assist patients with the disease, you say it, I don't want to mess it up.
Epidermolysis bullosa.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit what that is, so?
So it's a skin disease where the patient's skin blisters from the inside and the outside, so they're in pain all day, every day. It's called the worst disease you've never heard of.
Oh my goodness.
So.
Thank you, Sophia. Whereas Sophia has organized a clothing drive with the Rotary Club of Caldwell and a school supply drive with Grover Cleveland Middle School and Lincoln Elementary School, benefiting the Fannin Academy in Liberia. Mm-hmm. Whereas the Fannin Academy in Liberia has named its resource center the Sophia and her lovely mother, Janet Pedrazi Resource Center. And whereas Sophia's message of compassion, loving, and giving inspires others to make a difference. Whereas Sophia Pedrazi exemplifies the highest ideals of academic excellence, community, equity, and inclusion, embraced by the Caldwell-West Caldwell Public Schools, and as a student and member of that community. Therefore, be it resolved that the Caldwell-West Caldwell Board of Education takes great pride in recognizing and commending Sophia Pedrazi for the achievements this day, the 16th day of October, 2023. Please let's stand for her. So we're going to take a brief moment to take a picture, and then Sophia, you and your family are welcome to stay with us, but we also understand if you have schoolwork and you want to leave too, okay?
Thank you.
I'm just going to take this off just for
screen to go down.
Next, we're going to do a screencastify. We have to, by law, present the assessments that were recently done, so we have to do that tonight. We have until the end of the month, so we're going to do it tonight. This is our only meeting, so we're going to get to that next.
This is the 22-23 annual assessment presentation.
This presentation is intended to provide our annual update on student performance on state assessments and our progress toward our 5-year strategic planning goals for student learning. We'll cover the highlights of these slides and provide the full presentation to look over as well. 22-23 highlights and achievements include reaching our goals for reading, English language arts, and math for the grades listed here. The first part of our presentation will cover our English language arts, ELA, performance for the 22-23 school year. This table shows how our students in grades 1 through 6 performed in reading based on their reading levels. As you can see, we made big gains in all of our grades and increased the total percentage of readers on and above grade level in reading from 56% to 71%, surpassing our district goal. The implementation of multisensory phonics instruction in grades K through 3 using Foundations and Phonics First have been successful district initiatives. Students in grades 3 through 5 surpassed state averages on NJSLA last year. Our students in grade 4 made significant gains and performed more than 20% higher than state averages. Last year's 3rd graders were in kindergarten and grade 1 during the first 2 years of the pandemic and continue to need the most support to meet grade level expectations. We will continue to offer additional support to qualifying students through differentiated small group instruction in the classroom, as well as in Smart Support and Smart Summer Academy to target specific skills and standards. One way we are supporting students is in our Smart Summer Academy, which has helped qualifying elementary students make additional progress over the summer. Readers who attended the majority of the program made between 6 weeks and 4 months of progress in only 20 sessions.
This slide shows our middle school ELA performance. Students take a Linkit test in September, January, and June. The passing rates on their scores increased from September in each grade. For the NJSLA, our 7th and 8th grade scores improved compared to the prior spring. At the high school, passing rates also improved in both 9th and 10th grade on Linkit, and the grade 9 passing rate for the NJSLA improved by 7% from spring 22. Included in this presentation are data displays illustrating achievement levels, performance in specific grade levels over time, performance for the same group of students from last year to this year, performance across racial subgroups, disaggregated by gender, and performance of students by programs including free or reduced lunch, 504, English language learner or multilingual learner status, special education, and general education students. On the PSAT, Preliminary Scholastic Assessment Test, our high school students continue to outperform the state. 9th and 11th grade passing rates increased from 2022. Here are our SAT results for the 12th grade. State passing rates will be released later this fall and will update this presentation. The New Jersey Graduation Proficiency Assessment, the NJGPA, is a required graduation test for all 11th graders. 95% of our students met the requirement in ELA. Here's a breakdown of our NJGPA scores and our scores relative to the state. This slide shows our NJGPA passing rates broken down by race. Data is not displayed where we have less than 10 students in a group for privacy requirements. This slide shows our NJGPA passing rates broken down by program, including free or reduced lunch, 504, ELL or ML status, special education, and general education. Here are our goals for this school year in English language arts. Here are some of the ways in which we have and continue to support ELA improvement via professional development and resource allocation.
The second part of our presentation will cover our math performance for the 22-23 school year. We see a similar trend here in math that we did in ELA for our elementary students. While all of our students outperform the state, our 4th and 5th grade students surpass state averages by more than 20%. We will continue to offer additional support to qualifying students through differentiated small group instruction in the classroom, as well as in Smart Support and Smart Summer Academy to target specific skills and standards.
This slide shows our middle school math scores. Our passing rates increased in Lincoln from their September baselines in each grade. Our 6th and 7th grade Algebra and Algebra 1 grades on NJSLA improved compared to the prior spring. At the high school, Algebra 1 and Geometry passing rates for the NJSLA improved by 5 and 19% respectively compared to spring 22. Students also take the NJGPA in math. 77% of our students met the requirement. This slide shows our math NJGPA passing rates broken down by race. This slide shows our NJGPA passing rates in math broken down by program. For the PSAT, we continue to outperform the state. All grades passing rates also increased as compared to 2022. For SAT math, we had 2% more students that met or exceeded the benchmark as compared to the prior school year. As we had for ELA, here are some math displays illustrating achievement levels, performance in specific grade levels over time, performance for the same group of students from last year to this year, performance across racial subgroups, disaggregated by gender, and performance of students by programs, including free or reduced lunch, 504, ELL or ML status, special education, and general education. Here are our goals for this school year in math. Here are our PD and resources dedicated to math improvement. The final part of our presentation will cover our science performance for the 22-23 school year. CWC outperformed the state across all schools and grades. These tests are designed to measure the science standards for students covered that year and those preceding it. The link on this slide has more information on this assessment. Here are science displays illustrating achievement levels, performance across racial subgroups, disaggregated by gender, and performance of students by program, including free or reduced lunch, 504, ELL or ML status, special education, and general education. Here's how we're supporting science. At the middle school level, we're piloting new curricular resources and practice NJSLA assessments for use prior to the spring 24 test. Also, students with significant cognitive disabilities for whom state assessments are not appropriate take dynamic learning map assessments. Score ranges are referenced here. Individual student reports are mailed home to parents and guardians. Thank you to our students, staff, board, and families for all that you do to support CWC community in reaching our teaching and learning goals. This presentation will be posted to our site. Directions to access your child's scores will be mailed home. For any questions, please reach out to your child's teacher or principal. Thank you.
Okay, Just again, a reminder, I know we went through this very, very quickly because we have more important things to discuss tonight, but this will be posted to the board's website. And just a big thank you to Assistant Superintendent Ms. Jones, her team, our Elementary Director of Education, Ms. Jacobs, and our Secondary Director, Mr. Abudin, and to our teachers and administrators for all of their hard work. We are moving, baby steps, but we're moving forward. So we're very proud of everybody. I'm very grateful.
Well, President, I'd like to address the swastikas that were found in the bathroom at Grover Cleveland Middle School last week. First and foremost, hate and discrimination have no place at Grover Cleveland Middle School or in any of the Caldwell-West Caldwell schools. We believe bigotry and prejudice is unacceptable and will not be tolerated. The administration has shared all of this information about the hateful and discriminatory acts with the Caldwell Police. The Caldwell-West Caldwell Public Schools' core values include community, equity, and inclusion. We share the community's outrage and condemn these unacceptable and intolerable acts. The district does not tolerate any form of bias, intimidation, or hate toward any member of our community. Any students taking part in defacing the school with anti-Semitic graffiti or other forms of harassment, bias, intimidation, bullying, bigotry, or discrimination will be subject to disciplinary consequences, including the possibility of suspension and exclusion from school activities. Any damage to the school's property may result in legal and/or financial consequences. To ensure the safety and security of all students, we proactively work to address and prevent all forms of bias, intimidation, and hate. Through the great work of our Community Equity Planning Committee, this past year we created a 3-year plan focused on 100% of building a cultural reflective of our values of community, equity, and inclusion. This year, 100% of the staff are engaged in year-long professional learning about implicit bias and strategies for cultural responsiveness. We continually seek to provide students with appropriate opportunities to learn about and think critically about diverse perspectives. With that in mind, our equity team members across all buildings meet to address our professional learning arc and to debrief and share reflections. We work to ensure our CEP goal of cultural responsiveness is met. We launched actionable next steps built from our partnerships with We Need to Talk, the YMCA, and Montclair State University. Our school counselors from kindergarten through 12th grade teach various lessons in developmentally appropriate ways about inclusion and equity, whether that's through our Week of Respect activities, our anti-bullying specialist plans at each building, advisory lessons at the middle school, which we recently launched with training from the Anti-Defamation League, or our peer leadership activities at both our middle school and high school. Our code of conduct and school climate plans include developmentally appropriate strategies for building a culture of respect and teaching students through positive reinforcements and logical consequences. Our curriculum includes windows and mirrors for students to develop empathy in the classroom and through experiential learning that builds their awareness and understanding of diverse perspectives. I can assure the community that when students engage in hateful and biased acts that do not align with our values, the entire staff, our teachers, our administrators, our support staff, and our school counselors address it head-on through instruction, restorative practices, and discipline. As partners against all forms of hate, bigotry, and prejudice, please continue to have conversations with your children about the importance of respect, diversity, and the consequences of hate symbols. I recently reached out to Rabbi Lucas, and we had a long conversation, and he is willing to help support what we're doing in the schools, and we will continue our engagement with him and other outside agencies to make sure we're supporting your students in a way that they make sound decisions. If you have any information about what recently occurred and the hateful discriminatory acts, please contact Mr. Bertolo or Ms. Abramovich at the middle school. As the Board of Education is traveling to each school over the next several months to hold its meetings, Mr. Bertolo was already scheduled to be here to present tonight. He shifted his presentation this evening to address the recent hateful and discriminatory acts. I would like to invite him up to the podium to talk a little bit about what the middle school is doing in reaction to this heinous incident.
Should be coming on any second. Well, while that's turning on, I can at least get started here. Thank you, Dr. Conklin, and to the board for welcoming me to speak this evening. To begin, I want to echo Dr. Conklin's sentiment that as a school and as a district, we believe in equity and inclusion and denounce all acts of hate, bigotry, and prejudice. Thank you all for being here tonight to partner with us as a community. I just want to echo what Dr. Conklin had to say about the outrage and the disappointment that I have for the events that happened here at the middle school. We need to do better, we're going to do better, and hopefully this brief presentation tonight will show you some of the proactive steps that we're taking to ensure that something like this doesn't happen again and that our students are educated and understand the seriousness of all of this. The safety and security of our students continues to be our #1 priority. For transparency with the larger community, I would like to share an overview of what has recently transpired at the middle school. This was communicated directly with families of middle school students, but I would like to ensure the community at large is aware. Last Tuesday, a student reported to administration that a swastika had been drawn in the bathroom. We immediately documented and removed the swastika. I contacted the Caldwell Police Department and filed a report. I began investigating by reviewing camera footage and identifying all students who entered the bathroom during that day. Staff urged students to report any bigotry or prejudice. Students then came forward to report 2 additional swastikas. The same process was followed. We recorded this, removed the swastikas, and contacted the Caldwell Police Department to file a report. The investigation is still ongoing. From an educational standpoint, we have responded in the following ways. As the GCMS staff, I held an emergency faculty meeting before school began on Wednesday to talk through what had happened and how we support our students. Mr. Kotluski, our social studies coordinator and 7th grade teacher, will share a little bit about how we address this instructionally. First, I'm going to play a brief video.
Every day, people are targets of hate speech because they're Muslim, gay, Jewish, a woman, disabled, a Christian, Asian, white, old, wrong, black. Anyone can be a victim of speech that incites intolerance, discrimination, and possibly even violence. It's hate speech, and it's monstrous and unacceptable. But when the unacceptable starts to be accepted on the web, in the media, in political speeches, this insidious monster grows and expands to severely threaten human rights. We must stop hate speech now by monitoring and denouncing violent forms of expression, by educating our communities, and most of all, by treating others with respect. Let's clean the digital streets. Let's face hate speech together. Join forces with the Facing Facts community to confront hate speech.
John and Jamil reached out to me the day that the swastikas were found and asked me to get together with the social studies teachers to determine how we were going to address it. I sent a note out to the social studies teachers and we brainstormed ideas and looked for resources that evening. We looked at the New Jersey Civil Rights Commission. We looked at through the ADL, through Kane and Drew University's Holocaust Genocide Program, Education Week, Metro West Holocaust Education, and many other programs. As you saw, what is hate speech was used for one of the grade levels. The pyramid of hate through the ADL was used for another grade level. And a slideshow called Escalation of Hate was used for the 3rd grade level. We worked very hard to make sure that the lessons that we did focused on age-appropriate lessons for the kids that we were presenting to and learning with. One big issue was talking about what is community and how we are part of this community. And what kind of community do we want to have? I started my 7th grade lesson by introducing Leo Fuchs, my grandfather, a survivor of Dachau. I know the lessons were well received. By the end of the day, many students came up to me, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. And what they talked about, how they were sorry that this type of thing happened in our community. Yes, they do understand. And I believe that the lessons started us on a good path to recognizing right from wrong. And what has happened is wrong. And as a community, we have to stand up together and say, this should never happen.
In addition to classroom instruction for all students, I also contacted the Jewish Federation of Greater Metro West New Jersey and Keene University to set up lessons on hate speech and hate symbols for all GCMS students. These will take place 1 week from today, next Monday, October 23rd. I also contacted the Essex County Prosecutor's Office to discuss a potential program at GCMS on bias crimes. I also contacted the Sandy Hook Promise, set up a meeting with them to discuss Say Something, an anonymous reporting system. In collaboration with the Anti-Defamation League, last year we launched a peer leaders program. This is an opportunity for students at GCMS to develop leadership skills and spread their knowledge around the school through initiatives. Members focus on creating an inclusive school environment with guidance by their coordinators. As peer leaders, students take active roles in addressing the issues that most concern them while working together to maintain a school community that is respected and valued. Last year, after completing the training session, the peer leaders took initiative to determine ways in which they can further build a strong school community while understanding more about themselves and the challenges that middle schoolers face. This year, both new and returning peer leaders will take a more active role in everyday school life. With the help of their coordinators, peer leaders brainstormed various ways in which they will continue their involvement in building a positive school community, and this year we look forward to bringing those ideas to life. GCMS is also proud to announce that 8th graders Lucy Sandor and Nina Deng were recently accepted into the New Jersey Department of Civil Rights Youth Ambassador Program. In this program, Lucy and Nina will learn how to eliminate bias and discrimination throughout our communities and develop a rich understanding of civil rights. Additionally, they will also learn the importance of working with a team, participating in research, and communicating ideas. We are excited to see the opportunities that Lucy and Nina will bring back to GCMS. Our school counselors and our advisory program provide ongoing supports for students around similar topics such as Start with Hello, Sandy Hook Promise, Week of Respect, What is Integrity, mental health topics, and the good thing about our advisory program is the flexibility of our curriculum. Because of the recent events, we adapted our curriculum and were able to focus this week specifically on hate speech and hate symbols. We continue to engage our students in anti-bias and anti-discrimination education and invite you to partner along with us. Please consider joining our School Climate Committee. If you are interested in joining us, please send me an email. Thank you to our students, families, and staff for coming together to stand against hate and for modeling our beliefs and values as a community. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to go out of order on the agenda because the board feels it's very important that anyone in the community that wants to get up and speak can do so right now. So we're going to open up to public comments on the agenda. This is part of the agenda. I'm going to read my caveat. Public participation shall be governed by the following. Participant must be recognized by the presiding officer and must preface comments by an announcement of their name and address. Statements are to be limited to 3 minutes duration. Participant may speak no more than once on the same topic until all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. Boards use the public comment period of the meeting as an opportunity to listen to citizen concerns, but not to debate issues or enter into a question and answer session or a cross-examination between the public and individual members. Be aware that not all issues brought before the board will be resolved this evening. Boards may respond to the public comment by seeking additional information or by delegating the authority to investigate the issue to the superintendent or his designee. The presiding officer may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's comments if it exceeds the allotted time or is objectively obscene. Participants may be civilly liable for any obscene, defamatory, or slanderous statements made during public comment. So I invite anyone this evening that would like to get up and address the board to please come up.
Hello, I'm Kyle Brown, 8th grader at Grover Cleveland Middle School, and I live at 13 Birkendine Road. I'm here to discuss what has recently been happening at the middle school. A little bit of background knowledge. A couple years ago, when I was in 6th grade, a swastika, a widely known hate symbol, and Hail Hitler was written in the 6th grade bathroom. To this day, most people still don't know what happened to the kid who wrote these hateful and anti-Semitic comments, whether they are still in the district or if they are in a different district. Fast forward to a couple weeks ago. Before the incident occurred for the second time, I had been hearing lots of anti-Semitic comments being mentioned. Not only anti-Semitic comments are being made, but racist, homophobic, and other hate-filled comments as well. And the people making these comments believe it is okay to make them because they have not seen what happens to other people who make them. This makes students feel uncomfortable and threatened because if nobody is stopping students from making these comments, then who's going to stop them from acting on these comments with violence? It is to the point where the once positive student environment has become a negative student environment, and some kids are not comfortable walking through the hallways for fear of these comments and maybe even violence to be brought upon them. Even if these students were to report what is going on, nobody else aside from the perpetrators know what the punishment was. This overall causes students to continue making these comments and continue scaring students. Back to the present, last week, a swastika was once again drawn in the bathroom, and kids do not know who drew it or what the consequences will be. It is very important that students understand the consequences of their actions before it is too late to correct them. Just today, I heard that earlier, more swastikas were found in the bathroom. Mr. Bertolo, in an email to the entire school, claimed that once again, these hateful and discriminatory acts do not reflect the values and principle we espouse as a school. At what point can that claim no longer be made? How many times does this have to happen before we accept that these are the values reflected upon GCMS, and this is the reputation that we as students have? I ask you, what are you going to do to make sure that this, once again, does not happen? Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. It was very brave of you to come up. It's not easy. It's not easy to be up here as an adult and come up, and I really thank you for sharing. It's really important that we hear from our students because you're the ones in the building every day. You're the ones exposed to it. So I really do appreciate, on behalf of the board, you coming up and being brave enough to tell your story. So thank you so much. Dr. Conklin, can you please just address Kyle's question about parents knowing consequences to things that happen? It's important that we make that clear.
So every student has the right of privacy and can you hear me? Oh, sorry. Every student has the right of privacy and confidentiality, and if they're minors, we can't share what the ultimate consequence was to their behavior. But if students violate the code of conduct, it's pretty clear what that punishment would be. Sometimes it's suspension, sometimes it's in-school detention. It really depends on the severe level of what they're accused of and what they're found guilty of. So some students could wind up having to be sent to another school. It really depends on the incident, but that's not something that the administration can share with parents. I know that you're interested in those things, but just as you'd like anything that would happen to your child to be kept confidential, anything that happens to someone else's child has to remain confidential as well.
Would anyone else like to come up?
Madeline Brown, 13 Burgundy Road, very proud parent of Kyle. I have all kinds of comments and planned statements for tonight that I understand you're not even going to listen to. First, I do want to say thank you for a much stronger reaction this time. I think we learned from our mistakes of last time, and I do think that it's very much appreciated by the community. In addition to thanking you for the letter addressing everything that's going on in the world and condemning hate and violence everywhere. I think that was very much appreciated. I know not all districts and not all schools and not all Board of Eds had the courage to stand up and do that. So that was very much appreciated. I'm not going to reiterate what Kyle said or what we all know, that this is the second time this happened, that it's happened to students that are not just Jewish students, that right before this happened in 6th grade, there was "kill all gays" written in the bathroom, and that the community doesn't even know about that. Or that just right even before all this controversy, overheard in the hallway or spoken in the hallway was comments about the gas chamber next door. People don't even know about that. So you're saying that we would want our own children to be protected. I do want my own child to be protected. I want my own child to know that there are consequences when things like that happen. So I understand we can't give out names of children who do this, but the HIB laws were not created to protect the people who do the bullying. They were created to protect the children who are bullied, the children who are persecuted. And when we hide behind those laws and say we can't give out names because they have rights, I'm here to tell you that our children have rights too. The gay students, the Jewish students, whatever student that you mentioned up there can be a victim of hate crime, they all have rights too. And when we don't tell them what happens next, when they don't see consequences, it keeps on happening. You are having this big investigation over last week's swastikas, and yet there's more. These investigations, these threats of whatever comes next are very pie in the sky to children. They don't see anything happening. They hear rumors. And the rumor of the incident in 2022 is that that student is on 2 of our sports teams. So when we don't hear anything, aside from the fact that maybe they'll get championship rings, then we're at a loss for the students that are the victims of these things. So within the law, around the law, I'm trained on HIBs every year. I understand how this is. We need to find a way to protect the victims and make sure that they're heard and not invisible and forgotten, and stop this from happening again and again. Thank you.
Good evening. Jonathan Goodgold, 63 Orton Road. I have a daughter, a freshman in high school, and twins in 6th grade here. So I want to thank the board for the email to the community about what happened in the middle school and addressing the bigger issues that are happening in the world in the Middle East. But when we were here a year and a half ago, we talked about proactiveness and being transparent, and we're a little disappointed. It took until Wednesday to explain to the community what's happening in our world. The acts of terrorism and hate have made a huge impact on our district's children and families, and not to address it immediately on Monday, offering support, stating that there is no home for hate here. No home for hate in our schools is just a shame and a loss of an opportunity. This was a chance to be proactive about instilling lessons that hate of all kinds, not just anti-Semitism, racism, bigotry, anti-LGBTQ, whatever it is, has no place in our district. You had an opportunity to show students how to make a difference, in the words of our late principal here. You had an opportunity and it was missed throughout the district. Maybe being proactive would have prevented a swastika from being drawn in the bathroom, or multiple. Maybe. Maybe it would have helped someone who needed a little extra support, is going through issues relating to family or seeing the images on TV and not knowing how to respond to it. You know, a year and a half ago I was here, and a lot of us were here before the body, demanding why there was no information about the anti-Semitic threats coming from the middle school and why the district was not being proactive. I thank Mr. Bertolo and Ms. Abramovich and Mr. Kotlowski for all their responsiveness and working hard to bring in the education and the programs. But the district has to do more, and more across all the schools. It's great that the middle school is doing it. Our district has to have zero tolerance for hate. Zero. Unfortunately, our high school, which should be a leading example that hate has no place in this district, and should be leading the way, making a difference in the community, it has not been addressed at all. Not an email from the principal saying, listen, we know what's going on in the Middle East. We know what's going on. Just know, hate of any kind has no place here. No offering of support to the students. No discussion of the situation. No discussion that hatred or intolerance will not be tolerated in any kind, in any way at the high school. These are teenagers who are clearly aware of what's going on in the world and are talking about it, and maybe without the full knowledge of an understanding of the entire situation. And they're wondering, the students are wondering, why no one on the faculty and no one on the staff is at the school talking to them about it. The kids deserve better, and the community can do better. More needs to be done. Hate of any kind, race, religion, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, has no place here. And the message has to be relayed loud and clear at all times. And not just after something happens. Not just after a swastika is drawn. Not just after a blow up in the Middle East or some worldwide calamity. Waiting for another hate crime is not the time to address it. It's already too late. And just putting a Band-Aid on the situation isn't enough. Bringing Holocaust survivors, great. And while we still have the opportunity to bring this in, it's great. But there's got to be more. Because a lot of the kids don't get the connection to the Holocaust. You know, and it's not just about crimes against Jews or hate crimes against Jews. It's crimes against everyone, every group in our district. You know, it doesn't seem like this district is reacting enough. And I'm disappointed. And we hope that change comes quickly. Now, the community inclusion, equity inclusion, my daughter was on this as the middle school representative last year. And, you know, the 3-year equity program and plan is great. I laud the goals it's trying to achieve. It doesn't address this. It doesn't address being proactive to situations that come up to the board like this that need to be addressed. It doesn't address zero tolerance, that hate has no place here. It doesn't address the zero tolerance. Having a 3-year plan is great. Having a 5-year plan is great, but it doesn't address now. And things need to change when things come up. Having a week of respect where kids wear different color outfits or different colors doesn't really address hatred and the lack of tolerance we should have as a community for hatred. More needs to be done. And, you know, like Ms. Brown said, and I couldn't say it much better, so thank you. I don't think enough is done to combat hate here. There's not enough done here to make this district one that doesn't tolerate hate of any kind. There needs to be zero tolerance for these type of actions. There needs to be ramifications for these actions. The district cannot continue to sweep it under the rug, do nothing and pretend they will just go away. It's not the answer. Ignoring the demands of parents when something goes wrong and their kids are affected is not being proactive. And we as parents, and Mr. Bertolo, thank you for the wanting to get involved, but we as parents with the district, the entire district, want to know what we can do to help and are willing to do so. We also want to know what the district will be doing to make it clear to our students that hate of any kind has no place in our schools now and in the future. Thank you.
It's up to you if I can.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you.
So one of the things we always would ask parents is to use the resources that Mr. Bertolo provided and we provide as a district to speak to your kids about hate, and that if they see it, please report it immediately so we could address it. But as I said initially, we do have a lot of things that we're doing as a district in terms of our partnerships with the YWCA, Montclair, and I know the 3-year plan wasn't something that was seen as helpful, but for us it really sets the stage for how we support our students by giving the teachers the professional development they need to be able to address that. I can assure you that we do have zero tolerance. Our code of conduct is very strict. If students misbehave and do not follow the rules and do things like this, they are severely punished. Again, with suspension, with exclusion from school activities. If they do damage school property, they are required to reimburse us for fixing or correcting any damage they've done to that school property. I cannot share what that ultimate punishment is for those students. They have their own confidentiality. I cannot break that confidentiality, just as I would not break your child's if they were involved in something. So please understand that we do have a zero tolerance policy. Our anti-bullying specialists make sure they have plans. So if students feel in danger in any way, if they feel like they're being harassed, intimidated, or bullied based on any characteristic, then they are to report that. If you see that going on, I would ask that you report that. The only way we can make sure that our schools stay safe and secure is to partner with you as parents. So if you see something, you hear something, you hear your children talking about things, and you ask them if they reported that to an adult in the school, because we can't react to it unless we know it's happening. So we'd much rather be proactive in all the things that we're doing to support your students with instruction in our classrooms, by our school counselors, by the outside events that we hold and have other agencies come here and support us, than have to react to these kind of incidences. We much rather address them before they happen than have to address them tonight. So that's all. I hope I answered your I tried keeping track of everything. I hope I answered them. I'm sure I missed a couple of things that I should have addressed. Oh, I'm sorry. Embedded in our I forgot to mention, embedded in our curriculum is everything that I'm kind of talking about. It's in our books, it's in our lesson plans, it's in our activities. So believe me, the teachers have been discussing what's happening in their community and in the world. It's not necessarily something we address international incidences as building administrators, but it is addressed with our faculty, and then they turnkey that down to their children. We don't typically make comments about things that are happening outside of the school district.
Anybody else like to come up?
Jonathan Lace, 21 Welshman Court. By my count, this is at least the third incident involving swastikas in our schools in the last 6 years. This most recent incident was also shocking, given its timing being a mere 3 days after the terrorist attacks against Israel on Saturday, October 7th. GCMS rightly includes a lesson on the Holocaust as part of its social studies curriculum. There are some who believe that whenever a social studies class examines the Holocaust, that a student may merely suffer from temporary stupidity and decide to vandalize school property with a symbol that has been identified in class to be one of racism, hatred, and murder. However, there is simply no way to determine whether such use is evidence of a student acting out from something seen in social studies, in a social studies lesson, whether such use is evidence of a student mimicking what he or she has learned at home, or whether such use is evidence of a determined intention to do harm and kill. Simply put, how many swastikas does it take to constitute a death threat? New Jersey Statute Title 18A 37-2 lists various forms of conduct, among others, that would warrant expulsion from a public school. The statute specifically lists harassment, intimidation, or bullying. The board should make it unthinkable for any student to entertain the possibility of defacing school property with swastikas, both in terms of education and in terms of discipline. Everything I've heard here tonight so far in terms of education is wonderful. Where I think the district is falling short, however, is in terms of discipline. I recommend to the board the following. 1, that you treat the incidents from this past Tuesday at GCMS in the most serious terms possible, as direct evidence of harassment, intimidation, and a potential death threat. The safety of our students demands nothing less. Imagine the consequences if the unthinkable were preceded by similar incidents which were not treated in this way. 2, that you update the GCMS consequences for anyone caught or confirmed in the act of vandalizing with a swastika from suspension to expulsion, and that when you make this change, you announce it to the entire school and notify the parents. 3, that you require all bathrooms at GCMS to be regularly checked by staff more frequently for any signs of vandalism. 4, that you take steps necessary to hire non-uniformed SROs and have them present in every school in our district. If the board does not identify the perpetrator or amend its discipline policy for swastikas, then how can any family be assured that no threat to their child currently exists, or that potential death threats will be taken seriously? Finally, parents. This is where education begins, in the home. Schools can only teach, create policy, and discipline so much. Parents, please monitor and regulate your child's use of technology, specifically social media. Let's be the parents first and our kids' friends second. Set limits on the phones. Require your kids to read or do homework first before they get screen time, play video games, or watch television. Create boundaries. Sometimes the best way to love is by saying no. Your kids won't like any of this, but their well-being is more important than whether or not they get upset at responsible parenting. Do what you say you will do. No school policy can ever replace the responsibility that we parents have to educate and inform our children to be decent human beings and responsible citizens of the future. Thanks so much.
I'll give the superintendent a moment to respond.
Oh,
Thank you,
I'm
Jonathan.
sorry. I didn't hear a question. I'm sorry. I agree. We're not sure what the root causes are. In terms of updating the code of conduct, that's something we could explore. I'm happy to reach out to the board's attorney about that. I know that Mr. Patolo has made several changes already in terms of checking the bathrooms regularly and monitoring students as they exit the classroom to make sure we monitor those. And then the SROs is something that we would have to discuss as the board, as a board. I think that was it. I might have missed the first one. I apologize if I missed the first one. If you could email me and let me know if I missed one.
Would it be okay if Mr. Bertone talked about his new procedures with the bathrooms?
I can address that. Mr. Bertolo is, correct me if I'm wrong at this point, that the students have to then log in and log out each time they get to use the bathroom, and there are additional times throughout the day that staff, the custodians, go into those bathrooms to make sure that there's nothing new or nothing damaged in those bathrooms. So there's twice the amount of visits to the bathrooms, and then we know Each classroom has their own Chromebook where students log in and log out when they go to the bathroom, so we have a better timestamp on this. Because the bathrooms are open throughout the day, so we have to watch 8 hours of video to know who's going in and when they're going in. And we hopefully would know then when the swastikas were drawn. So it's easier for us to kind of track down who was in that bathroom and when they were in that bathroom. Right now, we're looking at weeks of video to see when that was, because we don't know specifically when those swastikas were drawn.
Thank you. Anyone else? Sure.
Hi, I'm Teresa Hunt, 72 Forest Ave. I will leave most of this to my daughter Lucy Sandor and her good friend Nina, and I'll be completely transparent and say I sort of was sitting in on one of the meetings recently that they're participating in with another wonderful student from our district in the Division of Civil Rights program in New Jersey, but it's not exactly the counter to the school resource officer approach, but I wanted to ask the board and the superintendent, and I can send email about this too, if they've considered restorative justice approaches to this problem. Because one thing that has come up in some of the meetings and some of the conversations I've overheard between Lucy and Nina in particular is just this repeated problem, right? And if our kind of traditional top-down solutions aren't working, I mean, I know the school is doing so much. I'm so grateful to the community for this better response, I think, this time around, and I see progression every single time. There's so much empirical evidence supporting a restorative approach, and I think if students feel like, you know, there's sort of, they get buy-in, I think we have a good sort of community here for the students, and that's not what I'm questioning at all. But it's sort of more like, if we can't have transparency around the consequences, maybe the students feeling like there's some community accountability here. You know, that I've heard neighbors, you know, in my neighborhood saying, oh, this is just kids being kids. But it's not. If you see the kids, Kyle, great job speaking up. Like, if you see the kids and how they're affected, there is more community buy-in. And maybe there is an understanding that this isn't just me, you know, sort of like putting something on the bathroom wall again to be a little punk or whatever. This really is very hurtful, deeply hurtful to kids that I care about in my community. That is the restorative justice approach. I know it can't replace traditional suspension, expulsion, you know, the other things. We need to have severe, grave consequences. But maybe it's sort of an intermediary, and I just wanted to put it to the board to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Yeah.
So we actually are looking at adopting some new curriculums in our counseling programs, and restorative practices is a focus on what we're going to be bringing in to the kindergarten through 8th grade, and then we're exploring some peer leadership activities at the high school to do something similar, but it's not exactly restorative practices. But it is an opportunity for other students to be engaged in helping correct the behavior of their peers.
There's just so much evidence that works.
Yes, that's what we're looking at in our elementary and our middle school. Specifically, in high school, we already have something that's going in that direction as well. It's not specifically restorative practices, but it's based on that theory and concept.
Anyone else? Before I close public comment, I will leave it to the board if anyone would like to make a comment. Carrie, you look like you want to say something. Do you want to talk?
I just want to thank everybody that came tonight. For those of you that are just here, for those of you that spoke, just thank you for being here and for sharing all of this with us. And thank you to Mr. Bertolo and the staff at the middle school as well for the things that you've done this week. I know that it's led to a lot of conversations at our house about lessons that my kids who go here have heard. So it's appreciated, but thank you all for being here. It's really what I want to say.
And I just would like to say on behalf of the board, Kyle, I wanted to see you. I am so sorry, and I apologize to all the students in the district, the staff, the families who are exposed to this. It's horrible. And Jonathan, you're absolutely right. Just to reiterate, this board does not tolerate hate speech or symbols of any kind. We're trying to be as clear. We can do better. We will do better. We will continue to grow as a district and a community. I will tell you personally, I'm kind of disappointed that there's not more people here tonight. Because what happened here, this place should be full, wall to wall, in the hallways. It should be as full as the football game was on Friday night, if not more. So to Mr. Bertolo, Ms. Abramovich, the staff of GCMS, you guys really have gone above and beyond to try. I know you're trying. We appreciate it so much. I will just say personally, having 2 children here at the middle school, both of them came home last week, one of them in tears. She was so upset and disturbed. She actually has Mr. Kotlewski as a social studies teacher. She was so upset, and in a positive way. I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean it in a positive way. She was so upset for him. She was so upset for him, and I thank you so much, Paul, for your vulnerability here tonight. I know that was not easy for you, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. You know, we just have to continue to work together, right? We only have your children for a certain amount of hours in the day. You have them a lot more than we do. We really have to partner together, and if you need resources, please reach out to a building principal on any level. You can reach out to Ms. Jones. Feel free to join the CEP. Anything that we can do to help support you, we are here and we are trying. And I just want to thank everyone who had the courage to stand up here and make a statement this evening. Okay, so we're going to have public comment again later on, but we're going to move on with the rest of the agenda for now, if everyone's okay with that. Everyone feels like they've... Okay, yeah, and if anybody, like I said, if anyone doesn't want to stay for the meeting, please feel free to get up and go. It's not a very packed agenda, kind of boring, but don't feel obligated to stay if you don't want to. Okay, so let's move on. Board, we're going to backtrack back and do a roll call for approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
And may I have a second?
I'll second.
Brian, can you take the roll, please?
Yes. Ms. DiMartini?
Yes.
Mr.
Sure.
Elko?
Yes.
Ms. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Diambola?
Yes.
Ms. Grosso?
Yes.
5-0, motion carried.
Great. Let's move on to curriculum and technology, Danielle.
Upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, motion to approve items A through I under curriculum and technology on this evening's agenda.
And can I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Brian, can you take the roll?
Yes. Ms. DiMartini?
Yes.
Mr. Elko?
Yes.
Ms. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Diambola?
Yes.
Ms. Grosso?
Yes.
5-0, motion carried.
Personnel, please.
Upon recommendation of the superintendent of schools, motion to approve items A through I under certificated and items A through B under non-certificated staff under personnel on this evening's agenda.
Great. And may I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Brian, can you take the roll when you're ready?
Ms. DiMartini?
Yes.
Mr. Elko?
Yes.
Ms. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Diambola?
Yes.
Ms. Grosso?
Yes.
5-0, motion carried.
And finally, finance and facilities, please.
Motion to approve items A through N under finance and items A and B under facilities on this evening's agenda.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Brian, will you take the roll?
Yes. Ms. DiMartini?
Yes.
Mr. Elko?
Yes.
Ms. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Diambola?
Yes.
Ms. Grosso?
Yes.
5-0, motion carried.
And finally, Ms. DiMartini, policy, please.
Yes. Upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, motion to approve items A under policy on this evening's agenda.
Oh, yeah, I did. Yes, I'm sorry, Terry.
Oh.
Sorry. And can I have a second,
I'll
please?
second it.
Brian, can you take the roll?
Yes. Ms. DiMartini?
Yes.
Mr. Elko?
Yes.
Ms. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Diambola?
Yes.
Ms. Grosso?
Yes.
5-0, motion carried.
Okay. All right, now we'll move on to public comments on anything outside of the agenda, or if someone thought of something they'd like to say. I'm not going to read through my whole speech. I think we're all a respectful crowd here tonight. Anyone like to get up and comment on anything on or off the agenda? Anything whatsoever? No? Okay. All right, then I am going to ask for a motion, because we do have more things to discuss this evening, especially after listening to the comments from the crowd, to exit public session and move into executive session in the Library Media Center of GCMS. May I have a motion to do that?
I'll make the motion.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Brian, can you please take the roll?
Yeah, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
All against, nay.
Nay.
Abstentions? 5-0, motion carried.
Okay, the next Board of Ed meeting will be on November 20th. We will be coming back here to Grover Cleveland Middle School, where we will be sharing positive things and hopefully a different environment, and give Mr. Bertola a chance to brag about his wonderful teachers and all the wonderful work that they're doing here with our students. Okay? Thank you so much. Everyone get home safe.